Welcome back. It is we were going to do the spread pick'em show after this. This time we're talking about the New York Yankees and their season coming to a close yesterday in the first game of the wild card, the one and only game of the wild card. The Yankees losing Fenway 6-2, and I thought no better to talk to of a person than Mr. Andrew over here, who runs I would say a pretty prestigious Yankee account on Instagram. It's Bronx _ Bombers with two
No,
S's.
all one word.
All one word. Bronx Bombers, two S's at the end. Just give that a
Yep.
follow. He puts a lot
Appreciate
of
that.
time and effort into it. A lot. I see it myself, and I don't know how he does it, but he does. So definitely give him a follow if you're on the gram. So, Andrew, what happened yesterday? Let's talk about Garrett Cole. Pay him all that money, and he last two innings. He was in the third. I don't think he got an out, but last two innings technically. How you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not what you want, right? Like you go
Sound
into
like
that
Joe
game.
Girardi.
You go into that game and you're expecting like really, really good stuff from your ace. And I understand that Garrett Cole hasn't been good in Fenway. He wasn't good at the end of September or the beginning of October. I guess just the end of September, in the month of September as a whole. But you got to show up in that situation. And I think he knows that, obviously, and he's going to hear it into next year. He's going to hear it basically until he finds his stride in a way. And it was disappointing. You really expected him to go out there and just perform his heart out because he's that type of guy. He's like a big baseball nerd. He loves baseball. He loves to win. He loves the New York Yankees. So you thought, he's finally going to overcome all those struggles in Fenway and as of late, and he's going to go out there and he's going to pitch a really, really good game. And it just wasn't the case, and it sucked. He didn't totally take us out of the game. 3 runs was a manageable comeback, but it's just tough to lose that momentum on the road. The crowd is crazy. You really don't have a chance to get out ahead, and he deserves a big part of the blame for this loss, definitely.
Yeah, I actually expected Cole to have at least a quality start, go 6 innings and 3 runs or less. But to see that happen was just not really what you expected, especially for a guy making that much money. And of course, he started off the year very well, then got caught with the whole spider attack, kind of dipped down for a little bit, then got better as the year went on in like July and even August, and then kind of went down once again. And that just pretty much propelled into the wild card game. You mentioned home field. I mean, I personally think it played a ton into this game, whether it was the Green Monster taking away possibly 2 home runs from Giancarlo Stanton, or just the crowd getting so into it, for Boston when Xander Bogaerts hit the 2-run homer. So, I don't want to play the what-if game, but, do you think if this game took place at Yankee Stadium, do you think the outcome's different, or do you think Boston was just a better team?
I mean, it could be different. Maybe the Yankees jump out to a 1-0 lead in the first inning. I don't know if that Stanton ball off the wall in the beginning would have been a home run. I think they said it was like 350. So to left center, that's probably not a home run at Yankee Stadium. But then again, the crowd is juiced. They're against the Red Sox, and the Red Sox get up first. You have a chance to gain that momentum, going to the top of the order with a 1-2-3 inning. So maybe it changes at Yankee Stadium, but they just look more prepared for that game, the Red Sox. They attacked early. They really did a good job. And I think Cole performs better at Yankee Stadium as opposed to Fenway Park, so maybe that's the difference. But I'm trying to not tell myself that would have been the case, because then I get very frustrated because there were so many winnable games down the stretch that really crushed their chances at home field advantage. I also had tickets. That would have been fun. Yeah, it's just not – it doesn't help. I'll tell you that much. Having the game not at Yankee Stadium definitely does not help. Maybe it was the difference, but I guess we'll never know.
That's what I said in a tweet last night. Like, you think about how close the final standings were for the Yankees and Red Sox. They finished tied, right? The Boston had the tiebreaker.
Yep.
Do you think about all the games the Yankees threw away, whether it was the Jared Walsh game or the Josh Donaldson / Nelson Cruz game? Who was the other one? Tim Anderson. There were so many just awful Yankee losses, and I'm sure many of them forgetting as well. So that definitely plays a big part of it. I'm sure people want to talk about the manager situation. Now, Aaron Boone, you told me his contract's up. I wasn't sure if it was 1 year left or his contract's up. You said the contract's up. So I think we expect him to be back if we're being realistic about it. But, where do you stand on that? Do you want him back? Do you expect him back for 2022?
I mean, me personally, I would try and keep him back. I only say that because I don't know if it's good for the players at this point in their career to get used to another manager already. I don't know how much the manager really plays a role anymore in the game, but definitely a manager's job is to boost morale. And you could tell that they obviously like Boone, and maybe it would be a disruption to take him out of the equation. But if you're going to stick with the same philosophy that you've been sticking with for the past 5 years, then it really doesn't make sense. If you're going to change the philosophy and keep Boone in there, then it makes sense because at the end of the day, Boone, as we know, is not really the one making the decisions. The guys in upper management. So if you can figure out a way to keep Boone and change the philosophy at the same time, I think that would be the most ideal situation. I don't think they go out and hire like a Buck Showalter or someone that's, not fully committed into analytics. And I don't think analytics is necessarily the problem. I think it's the Yankees analytics that is the problem. I think they're steering in the wrong direction. I think numbers help. I really do. And I think looking at the stats really, really help. I just think the Yankees are looking at the wrong ones. I can't really tell you where the authority is coming from, whether it's from the GM or Hal Steinbrenner, who's really telling Boone to make these decisions. They haven't really made that clear, but it's definitely not Boone. So if they can try and avoid firing Boone, but at the same time changing their philosophy, I think that would be the most ideal situation.
So, all right. So you said that, but we're talking about the puppet as compared to the puppet master. Let's say, do you think
Right.
the puppet master and Brian Cashman should he be out of a job, or do you think he's going to stay? I think he's probably going to stay because the Yankees are very loyal to him. But do you
Yeah.
think he kind of has overstayed his welcome by this point?
No, not really. And I only say that because I think he's a really, really good a guy at getting pitchers. And you could see it, right? The Yankees had a lot of bullpen injuries early in the season. They took a lot of risks by getting like Jamison Tyone, Corey Kluber in the offseason, two pitchers that came off of Tommy John. And I would say they had relatively successful seasons. Tyone more than Kluber because obviously Kluber got hurt. But the bullpen, I mean, down the stretch was awesome. And he was able to find really, really nice pieces in that bullpen like Wandy Peralta and Clay Holmes for essentially nothing. And they really, really helped this team get into the playoffs late. Now, maybe if you get a guy that can assess offensive analytics better, then maybe you don't necessarily need the greatest bullpen in the world to get to the postseason. But bullpens help in the playoffs. And obviously anything can happen in the wild card game. And I think if the Yankees got to a series, they could have possibly beaten this Boston Red Sox team, but it's only one game. So can't really do much about that. I think Cashman stays. Him and Hal Steinbrenner are really, really good friends. And I think Hal trusts Brian Cashman's decision-making. Although I wouldn't doubt if Hal Steinbrenner tries to push, Brian Cashman in another direction. And maybe if Brian Cashman is hesitant about changing his philosophy drastically, then maybe Brian Cashman steps down and the Yankees have to look elsewhere. But I would have to imagine that if Brian Cashman leaves the Yankees, there are going to be phone calls from other teams that want Brian Cashman in a matter of seconds. That's how big I think this guy is, and he could turn a lot of franchises around.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. Even Michael King, you forgot to mention, another good bullpen arm towards
Yep.
the end of the year. But when it comes to philosophy, like, do you think the Yankees just entirely need a different philosophy? Because you think about it, like they're a team that definitely I would say values certain stats like OBP and like OPS, things like that.
Yep.
But do you think they should have more of this small ball approach, bat on ball type guys? Because there were times where they were being more aggressive on the base paths. You would see so many games where Tyler Wade would come in and steal even first and or steal second and third base. So they got aggressive at times. But do you think the Yankees need more speed, more reliance on their defense as compared to sticking these, big Stanton type guys in the outfield and relying on that to work?
I actually think there are ways to change, in a way, the philosophy, but at the same time, keeping the majority of what you believed in the first place. There are guys out there. The Yankees need athleticism. I think that's what it comes down to. They need good defense and they need good base running. That was a lot of their outs this year, a lot of struggles in the field and a lot of struggles on base, and it just did not help. You need a lot of athletic guys, and I think there are guys on the market that are athletic and fit that kind of high
Byron
OBP, high
Buxton?
OPS guys. Yeah, right. You think of Byron Buxton, maybe even Ketel Marte. I know Carlos Correa is like the scum of the earth to most Yankee fans, but he
Yeah.
does really fit their philosophy well. Corey Seager in the same way. They need a shortstop and an outfielder, and I think maybe not as much an outfielder, obviously, as a shortstop, but they need some good pitching as well. So I think just making your guys more athletic and not so one-sided. A lot of strikeouts in that lineup. I think they need to mix into more guys that hit for average. I know average. I don't look at average that much when I'm evaluating players. I don't. But having guys that can hit for average just mixed in the lineup, maybe one or two, like a DJ LeMahieu and someone else, that could be the fix. And I understand they kind of replace average with on-base percentage. Like they figure, well, if they can get on base at this, what does it really matter what their average is? And that works to an extent, but it happens to be that all the on-base percentage guys that they have strike out a ton. And there's a lot of back-to-back-to-back strikeouts that really occur a lot in that lineup. So I think bottom line is you need to try and get more athletic, and I think there's a way to do that.
Yeah, I would personally love a center field upgrade. We know that Aaron Hicks missed pretty much most of the year, all of the year, I would say, just about. I'm not the biggest Aaron Hicks guy, as you know. He does some things well, a very good eye, works walks and whatnot, and plays a good center field, but the injuries are just crazy, and I'm just not really a big fan of his overall. So if they can go out there and get a Byron Buxton, who, yes, gets injured in his own right, but if he stays healthy, he's one of the better players in the game and would definitely be – honestly, if he was a left-handed hitter, he'd be the most perfect player. I can deal with him being a righty, but like he would just be a perfect fit for this team, even on the base paths. So there are different ways they can address this team in the offseason. I'm kind of personally over Aroldis Chapman. I think you can kind of clear that money, $20-something million he's making, kind of over the whole Gary Sanchez thing at this point. I know you're kind of a Sanchez, not a Sanchez guy, but you like him more than me for sure, because I remember when he pinch hit on Saturday night against the Red Sox and swung and missed on 3 pitches. I was mad. I was like, just keep Higgy, and what are we doing? So, like who do you think realistically is going to be off this team next year that maybe people don't see coming, whether it is a Chapman or a Sanchez or people like that?
Well, I think 2 players right off the bat that I think you have to get rid of to clear about $30 million in cap would be Britton and, like you said, Chapman. I think those are 2 guys that are kind of towards the end of their career. And to be honest with you, Chapman probably lost more games than he really helped you win. I mean, maybe that's an overstatement. The guy had 30 saves or whatever, but he's expected to do that. I remember one time in an All-Star break, he had 30 saves. So he was an elite reliever at some point, but he's not worth $15 million. And with the Yankees' ability to go out there and get Wandy Peraltas and Clay Holmes, it's kind of proven that you don't really need to spend a lot of money on good relievers. There's a lot of ways to find diamonds in the rough.
It's like running backs in football.
Right, exactly. Brian Cashman has obviously been able to find some really, really good relievers for some really cheap prices. As for players that would be a surprise, maybe we see Gleyber Torres get traded. I don't know if Luke Voit getting traded is necessarily a surprise. I guess that all depends on what they do with Anthony Rizzo, but I can definitely see him going. I think Aaron Hicks could get traded. I don't know who's going to pick up that contract. Maybe he gets released and they have to pay it. I could see Miguel Andujar getting traded, Clint Frazier, maybe even Gio Urshela getting traded. I think there are a lot of infielders on this team that are very one-sided players. I know Gio Urshela is a fantastic defender. It's going to be hard to replace a guy like that, and you need a shortstop. But at the same time, Gio Urshela strikes out a lot, and he's an above-average offensive player, like barely above average. He's not fantastic offensively, and he kind of makes up for it defensively. So maybe that's a shock to some people to see your Gio Urshela gone. But, I mean, I don't really think the big pieces are going to move around too much. I think Gary Sanchez stays. I think the franchise is committed. And I think Gary Sanchez improved from last year. And it wasn't a huge improvement, but he didn't seem like a liability at the plate this year like he did last year. His defense slightly improved. Obviously, it's not the kind of defense you want from your catcher, but I don't know. Maybe the offensive upside fixes that. I don't see, obviously, Judge or Stanton moving. I see Brett Gardner possibly coming back. Obviously, Garrett Cole's not going to go anywhere, even though Craig Carton says he wants him traded and off the team. It's absurd. I don't think Corey Kluber comes back. Jamison Tyone, I think he stays.
I have a good one for you. People at work today were like, got to get rid of that freaking Gallo guy. I mean, Joey Gallo's not going anywhere, right? There's 1 year left on his deal. He has to.
No, and there's no reason for him to go anywhere because I think his payroll next year is only $3 million. So a lefty power bat like that in the Yankees lineup is, it's nice to have. And he was disappointing. I mean, he really was. And I thought that it was going to change the season around. A really, really high on-base percentage guy. He hits a ton of home runs from the left side of the plate. And it just seemed like maybe Rizzo made a bigger impact than Joey Gallo. It's not really something I considered at the time. I really wanted Gallo. I guess Rizzo was really the unexpected one. Gallo was in talks for a while, but yeah, he needs to get better. And I don't know if this is maybe a New York thing. Maybe he's just not a New York guy. And I'm not going to be the first one to say off of 2 months, 3 months of baseball that he's a bad player. We still have a year for him to get comfortable, to get in there. We saw how long it took for, people to start liking Stanton again. So maybe it's just one of those things. But yeah, I doubt they move anywhere with Gallo, and maybe they even extend him after next year if he does well enough.
That's probably because he's wearing number 13, and that number should be retired, in my opinion. But anyway, we won't talk about that. So if I could offer you a scenario, right, where
Yeah.
let's say shortstop is open, of course, and you move LeMahieu to third base. You let's say move on from Voit via trade or something. Let's say they re-sign Rizzo, put Torres at second base, move on from Urshela. You have a choice, Andrew, and you could have, let's put money in play here. I don't want you just, picking the best guy. Put age and money into consideration. A shortstop choice here, I have the list. Marcus Simeon, who I think played mostly second base this year, but has played a ton of shortstop in the past. Trevor Story, 28 years old. Corey Seager, 27 years old. Carlos Correa, I don't think it's realistic, 27 years old. Javier Baez, 28. Andrelton Simmons, even 32. Which guy are you going for based on the value, the age, the fit for the team?
Well, right off the bat, I'm going to eliminate Simmons and Javier Baez.
Not correct.
I don't want Baez in New York. I really don't. And Simmons is kind of old. He's athletic, but he's not a good offensive player. From those four that would make the most sense that you mentioned in the first place, maybe a Marcus Simeon. I mean, I could see Marcus Simeon coming in, but I really think that the guy I would go after is a Corey Seager. Great left-handed bat. You need a guy like that in the lineup, an athletic left-handed bat. And he plays a really, really nice shortstop, and he also hits for average. And he's been very, very solid for the Dodgers. He could play in a big market franchise. I think he is the guy. But my favorite guy is not any of those guys that you mentioned as realistic. I really like Carlos Correa, and I know it's very unrealistic because Carlos Correa would never come to the Yankees, and frankly, the Yankees locker room would probably not have it. Mm-hmm. But Carlos Correa, I think, is the best shortstop out of those on the list, and he's young. He's a very, very good baseball player. He fits their philosophy now and what I hope their philosophy will be. I think he's the perfect mix, and maybe they let bygones be bygones and they ignore it and they let him on the team. I would be very happy, but I feel like there would be kind of a learning curve at the beginning of the season, so maybe not. But Corey Seager, I think, is the guy I would go after.
Does it concern you that Correa and even Seager have had injuries in the past? I know that Correa once broke his ribs, I believe, getting a massage, and I still to this day believe he got injured probably having sex in the shower is what my guess is. I personally believe that, but I don't think anyone's breaking their ribs in a massage. I'm just saying, unless going crazy. But anyway,
yeah, I don't know who's giving them a massage that hard. I don't know what's going on there.
But all right, so as for the starting pitching, I looked at one of the projected rotations on Twitter today, and it just didn't look that great. You look at some of the names right now: Garrett Cole, of course, Montgomery, Tyone, Kluber, Cortez. Do you think they bring in another pitcher somehow? Is there someone in the minors that I'm not aware of? You can't really go into next year with a rotation like this. As clutch as Nestor was this year, you can't really, I feel like, go into a season like that. Is there a certain pitcher out there that you think the Yankees could take a shot on? They've taken shots on Paxtons of the world and guys like that, so you never know.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think Garrett Cole obviously was very, very solid this year. He's going to finish top 3 in Cy Young. He's not going anywhere. I think Montgomery was also very solid, an underrated solid, but he's not a guy that can give you 6 or 7 innings, and that's kind of what you want as your number 2. And right now, I would say Jordan Montgomery is kind of the number 2. Maybe Luis Severino forms back into the starting rotation, which, by the way he looked this year, if he continues that next year, I think he could be a really nice threat in the rotation. I'm not so aware of the free agents that are coming up for pitchers. I've been mainly looking at.
No, I think he's out there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the Yankees want to go that heavy with another pitcher.
I just want an innings eater that's reliable. A perfect guy would be remember Jeff Samardzija on the Giants a couple years back?
No.
He was like a guy who would pitch like, a low fours ERA every year. He would give you like the high amount of innings, never got hurt. Like I just want like a reliable guy like that. Kind of like what Tanaka was, probably wouldn't want to pay a guy that much, but just a reliable guy, innings eater, high.
Yeah, you're right. So then maybe you attack the New York Yankee lover or hater. I don't really know
I got a
what to
name
make of
of
him.
him.
Marcus Stroman. I mean, I think he's young and he's athletic and he can play in New York. He's shown that he had a really good season with the Mets. Obviously, he didn't get that many wins as a starter because, after all, he was playing on the Mets. But he's a guy that can give you innings, and he's a number one pitcher. He was the number one pitcher for the majority of the Mets season when Jacob deGrom went down. So he could be a really, really nice option in that rotation. I know Marcus Stroman has been absolutely begging on Twitter to come to the Yankees in some capacity. I know after the game yesterday, he said the Yankees could have made a run if they got past the wild card game. The only thing that would have stopped them is their starting pitching. And that's, kind of a direct, like, why didn't you get me? If I was there, I would have helped you. So, I mean, he had a fantastic season. So maybe he's a guy they attack. Your guy, Kevin Gausman, maybe he's a guy that the Yankees attack. They have the money to do so. But there's a lot of old starting pitchers on this list I'm looking at, like Greinke, Verlander, Kershaw, Scherzer. I guess Bauer's young, but we don't really know what's going on with him.
Oh.
So I would say that the two that I would look at would be Strowman and Gausman. That would be the two that I would feel
I have a guy
comfortable.
that came to mind here. He's under contract the next like 3 years, making like 14 mil per year. Kyle Hendricks, is that a possible name? He's an innings eater. He doesn't get hurt really at all.
Yeah, it could
Had
be.
a down year though. I will say had a down year. Maybe there's something going on there. He's not really a high velocity guy in the first place, but like I feel like that might be the type of guy that I'm looking for personally.
Yeah, and I think you might be right there. There might be something to that. Obviously, you need to trade like draft capital and stuff like that, like prospects and stuff. But maybe he's the guy. Maybe even like a Noah Syndergaard. You keep him in New York. I know he's dealing with injuries, but maybe he can serve some type of role. It's tough because it seems like every time a really, really good pitcher, except for Garrett Cole, obviously, comes to New York, they struggle and they really can't handle the media right away. So maybe, like I said before, a guy like Strowman, who's already used to that New York media, can come in and make an instant impact. But he's kind of a distraction, so I don't know if he'd be the best option.
Did he block you on Twitter or was that me? I forget.
Yeah, he blocked me.
He
blocked me. I have to go on my second account to look at his dumb tweets now. It's a problem. It's a hassle.
I mean, once Trevor Bauer, he once blocked me for saying like "Welcome to Yankee Stadium." So I guess not all guys have thick skin, as we know. Just looking like up and down here, like, do you think Anthony Rizzo gets re-signed though? In your honest opinion,
it's hard to say. Right now, I'm leaning towards no, because I think there's a lot of money that they need to spend elsewhere. So I think that's obviously going to be the priority. But if Anthony Rizzo genuinely has interest in coming back to the Yankees, I mean, I don't see why not. He's a great left-handed hitter. He's a pretty good left-handed hitter. I won't say great left-handed hitter, but he's a great defender, and that's no doubt. And having
Mark Teixeira.
And yeah, exactly. Well, and seeing the difference between Voit and him defensively, there was a big gap, and you could tell when like Voit would start games over Rizzo sometimes that there was like a really, really big gap between them defensively. So there's some value there. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe you move LeMahieu over to first if you get someone over there, keep Urshela at third. There's a lot of different combinations that the Yankees can go with. But if Rizzo has genuine interest in coming back to the Yankees, I would see him. I would be down to re-sign him. Although I think he might go back to the Cubs, which would be pretty cool.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. I was gonna say I brought this up to you. I was actually at your house watching the game last Thursday. When who were they playing that day? I forget now.
The Rays?
I don't know. Now I forget. But anyway, we were watching that game, and I brought up to you like there was some trade rumors potentially for Manny Machado, and I brought that name up and you were like, no, no, no. But then we kind of went over the numbers and we're like, hey, if we get rid of Chapman and Britton, that kind of opens up the money. I'm a big Machado guy. Maybe he's a bit of a headache sometimes, but I love guys that play every day. They put up the same damn numbers every year with consistency and very good numbers and plays very well in the field. Machado's a guy I would want. I don't know how he would handle New York. I don't know how it would go. Of course, he had a couple incidents when he was with the Dodgers for half a year. When he stepped on someone's ankle at first base, it wasn't a good look. I get it. But like, the guy, I feel like is a tremendous player, kind of like Robinson Cano, but a headache. Like Robinson Cano would always show up and play every single game, put up his usual, 330 homers, 100 RBIs every single year. I feel like Machado, to an extent, can be that. Yes, there is more baggage because of the player he is and the personality he is, but looking at his contract, it ends when he's 35 years old. It's not the worst contract in the world. I feel like he will be able to produce based on the player he is. So do you think Machado there's a chance, or am I just getting
Yeah. I think there's a chance because the Yankees were interested when he went to the Dodgers, like back in 2018. Like there was a lot of interest there. So there probably is some interest between the two. I know Manny Machado had interest in coming to the Yankees when he was traded to the Dodgers. I know he was almost rooting for that to happen. I think he ended up in a really solid place as well. But he's another high strikeout guy, and he's not as high as some others, but he's another 100 strikeout guy that you'd be adding to that lineup. So I mean, maybe that concern, and there's another 100 strikeout guy from the right side of the plate. So maybe adding a guy like that is not necessarily what you want to see as a Yankee fan going forward. You don't want to see them add more strikeout guys, but his talent is there. He fits the on-base percentage philosophy that they like. His OPS is kind of low. Not really that low, but it's low as compared to some of the other Yankee sluggers. But yeah, it's definitely a possibility. I mean, they've shown interest in the past, so I don't see why they wouldn't in the future.
Yeah, you're speaking of strikeouts. I think I may have brought this up to you in the past. I want to see a team built that's just all contact hitters. Like I want to see a team of LeMahieu and David Fletcher and Michael Brantley and like every single just straight pure contact hitter in baseball and just see what would happen. Like it's not going to happen obviously because it's impossible, but I just want to see how that would
I
go.
wonder what the analytics would say on that.
They may hit like 100 total home runs as a team that year, but I feel like, we may be onto something here. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much going to wrap it up. I think, if you guys like this, us talking about the Yankees, it's more of Andrew because I'm more of a casual these days. But if you enjoy this, then we'll definitely have some like reactions when they actually make moves in the off season. I definitely trust your opinion. You're like, I used to be like you. I used to watch all 162. I was a freak about the Yankees. And as you get older, sometimes you kind of like fizzle out. I definitely keep up, but you're like, you watch every inning. So I'm like, you know what? Let me have Andrew on. He'd probably
I appreciate that.
A lot more than me. So anyway, once again, follow the Instagram Bronx Bombers, 2 S's on the end. Good account. I follow it myself. Not a big Instagram guy, but I still follow it. But anyway, that'll do it. So anything to close out here, Andrew, about the Yankees? Any like predictions or reflection?
No, I mean, no really predictions. I mean, it just sucks, doesn't it? Like this day kind of just sucked. Yeah. It was another day for the last 4 years that I've had to go through, and it just sucks. It's, at the end of the day, you want to see improvement, but I mean, a World Series would heal all the pain that I've experienced in the last 5 years. It really would. Yeah. So hopefully all you Yankee fans will be satisfied like me and, see what happens.
Yeah. Winning cures all. That's how it goes in sports. We know that. All right. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, and we'll talk to you next time.